Hi, good morning. Can I check everyone can hear me? Okay. Excellent, thank you. Well, we have a whirlwind 20 minutes with a fantastic panel this morning. So we're not going to waste any time with introductions. We're going to get straight into questions. Now, we heard from the Minister this morning, FinTech is all about disruptive energy, relentless positivity, rocket fuel ambition. So when we bring that to the concept of the workforce, Jonas, I'm going to come to you first. What does zero design, no legacy, complete reimagination of the workforce look like from your perspective as a Group Innovation Lead at Lloyds Banking Group?
Thanks very much. So I was listening to the Benedict Evans podcast this morning, and he said that every decade in the 20th century, the USA had more accountants, right? And that was despite the invention of adding machines, mainframes, computers, spreadsheets, SaaS, right? So there's a huge growth story there, and that's the way we at Lloyds see the future of the workforce with the technology changes that we're all talking about. So it's a growth story. So for us, that's meant 4,000 new technical hires since 2022, 1,500 this year. We've got 1,000 technical vacancies right now. So the number one headline for us is more. You know, we need to be doing more. We're very excited about the possibilities for our workforce being bigger, more complex with more skills. It's not a question of doing less. So then the question is, how do you bring these new technologies in a way that is really supporting people? And that's about a systemic challenge, you know. It's about big financial services having a posture which is about growth, unleashing people less inclined to kind of take the safe option. So there's kind of two dimensions there, growth and then that organizational factor.
So just picking up on that unleashing potential point, we hear a lot about the potential for AI to really unleash that creativity and innovation. How do you kind of see that play out across financial services?
Yeah, so I think a big part of that is for the larger organizations in particular, there was a legacy of 2008 and a kind of temptation to stick to the knitting for a while, which of course was totally appropriate for the industry. It's about moving on from that. We've got a group innovation function now that's relatively new at Lloyds that I'm involved in, and we're here to provide that stability that a big bank would always do, but also explore new opportunities. And for us, that's about having a repeatable innovation process that allows our people to use these new technologies in a really creative way. And we're already seeing the fruits of that. We've got a live AI app in our call centers now, using generative AI to provide better service to customers. We're also rolling out an AI layer over our current account app. So we're already seeing the fruits of that. But it's about trusting in our workforce, growing and unleashing people to be productive.
And Claire, we are all anticipating your report, which you're due to publish on AI and the workforce in financial services. So in your role at the Financial Services Skills Commission as Chief Executive, how do you see this playing out across the sector? And what are the kind of guardrails that we should be thinking about in terms of protecting workforce?
Thanks, and thank you for the advert for the report next month. So I think we kind of use the analogy a lot with when we're talking about this, that we're in the plane's taken off, but we don't quite know where the destination is. But we know we're going to have to land sometime, so we need to prepare, even though we don't quite know where we're going to be. And I think that's sort of relevant for where we are. This huge change is coming, but we can only fuel that change and have the innovation if we've got the people with the right skills to do it, but then also be mindful of how it's going to change what's done. And we're very much in a space of let's not protect the jobs are going to change, but the people have got very, very good expertise and skills, and we need to augment what they are able to do for the future to fuel this growth and innovation, these huge opportunities to reimagine how financial services operates and just harness the innovation that comes quite often from the fintech sector, but from others as well. So it's about being on that plane and sort of making some bets about where you're going to need to be. And you know, as Jonas said, we've got to get that innovation within people and that freedom and sort of remove some of the risks that people are sort of, let's not do this. And there's still some scars, I think, from 20 years ago of that. But we are seeing that, definitely. And firms are very much thinking, what do I need in the future? Yes, I need AI skills. Yes, I need cybersecurity, etc. But we have seen a huge spike in firms demanding adaptability, teamwork, relationship management, recognizing that how firms are structured, less in the vertical, more in the horizontal, will require more of those skills. And firms are very much investing in those now, even though they don't know how exactly the technologies are going to be applied.
Rob, I want to come to you on that point about the workforce and the skills. Obviously, you're a board member at LatentBridge, but you've managed massive transformations across the sector. When we were here last year, we talked about this being quite a unique point in the workforce, with 5 generations in the workforce at one point in time. So what are the positives that some of these AI challenges are throwing up, given the composition of the workforce that we have at the moment?
Yeah, well, I think the positives are quite good, because a lot of the mundane, monotonous work is automated and can be. I think for an organisation, data underpins everything, so you need to have a very cohesive strategy. But the problem that I see in lots of organisations is it's departmental level rather than organisational level. So I think you need to really pull everything together. And then I think you really need to think about how the different generations are going to contribute, because there's a lot of experience, and that middle layer needs to be retained, and they need to interrogate that data in an intelligent way to create the new products, services and value added. Because if you don't understand the core plumbing, you have a challenge going forward. So for me, it's about bringing a strategy together at an organisational level. You know, have an innovation team that goes across the organisation, and then start to upskill and train people in the use of AI, but use their experience to make it more intelligent, because it's not intelligent on its own, and certainly if you have core data that's not very, very good.
And Claire, just without wishing you to divulge all of the wonderful things that are going to come out in the report, 2 of the things that we hear coming up in a lot of conversations around what the skills that workforces will need are almost at 2 kind of different extremes. So you've got deep technical skills to analyze and manage agentic workforces and look critically at output. And at the other end, it's the soft skills, the personal brand, the kind of creativity, and what the person is kind of bringing. Are you seeing that pull through in the research that you're doing for your paper?
Yeah, 100%. I think it's sort of best exemplified by a couple of years ago I met with Charlie, I forget his surname now, your chief exec.
Charlie Nunn.
Thank you, Charlie Nunn. Don't tell him that.
It's a good job you knew.
Yeah, I sat next to the right person. But I said, Charlie, look, what's your biggest skills challenge? I think it would be something around, AI, deep technical, software engineering, whatever. And he said, it's teaming. And I was really struck. It's actually about how you can get different parts of the organisation to work together. Yes, we want all of those skills in one person, but that's not feasible. So we need to be able to get that innovation to work exactly as you say. Yeah. Less of the vertical, more of that horizontal, that fluidity, and that's where the innovation, the creativity comes. And I think that comes really neatly to your point about the intergenerational nature of the workforce. If we can break down those barriers and those hierarchies, you can really unlock some real innovation. Why can't you have a new graduate working with someone who's been in the industry for 30 odd years and knows deeply about wealth management, asset management, whatever it might be, pricing a proposition? Why can't you have those work together? You will get a really good outcome. So that teamwork piece, which is what came out in our research recently, is really important.
Thanks, Claire. And so, Jeremy, if we're kind of moving away from this kind of future-proofing as a defensive and more as the opportunity that's being created, how can financial services really drive productivity and look at this as a point for reflection or reimagination of the workforce?
Yeah. So I view future-proofing of financial services not as a defensive shield, but as an offensive strategy. I think we've all seen and read headlines about a job apocalypse, but the real story isn't about disappearance or destruction. It's about mutation. And I like to think about computing, or take computing, for example. It took about 15 years between the introduction of the invention to a productivity spike. Now, 3.5 million jobs in typewriter manufacturing and secretarial work were impacted. However, 19 million new jobs in computer manufacturing, the whole new role of analysts was created, as well as other jobs. The reality is 60% of the jobs we do today did not exist 80 years ago. And so I'm really excited about the new sectors, the new industries, and the subsequent jobs created by AI. And I'm also really confident that we'll see the introduction of these new jobs in these new sectors much faster because of AI than we did in other breakthroughs, like computing I mentioned before, the steam engine, or even electricity. Now, in financial services, I think we all know that we're transitioning from task-based automation to agentic AI. And so by offloading those complex workloads to AI, we allow human talent to do what matters: high-level risk assessment and deep relationship management. And I think two great examples of this include Deutsche Bank. They built DB Lumina. So it's an AI-powered research agent built on Gemini that is saving their analysts and their wealth managers hundreds of thousands of hours. Or even Goldman Sachs, who's using Gemini Code Assist to boost developer productivity and efficiency. Now, I think AI will help rewire the FS workforce. It'll empower all employees, not just those in tech roles, to become builders. It'll also further democratize innovation across all roles. So really, innovation can now sit across all levels, all generations, and all parts of the business. And I believe, and I hope all of you in this room believe or will soon believe, that AI will create a dividend of intelligence. And leading FS and fintech firms will be able to reinvest this in new experiences, new business models, better customer experiences, better colleague experiences, and ideally better performance and better outcomes.
And do you think fintech are particularly well placed to gain this kind of competitive edge because of they don't necessarily carry all of the legacy infrastructure that we might see across financial services?
Yeah, so I think fintech is incredibly well placed, and I think UK fintech is even better or even more well placed to do so. I can go on, and maybe we will if we have any time left, talking about the virtues of the UK and why the UK has such a powerful opportunity to lead the global AI transition. But I think fintech, again, not having some of the legacy constraints or the legacy need to re-innovate or to reinvent, is potentially better positioned to take advantage. I think also the allure of fintech, and I look at the incredible work of the Monzos, the Starlings, the Revoluts in the UK, in the world, just attracting really top tier talent. So yeah, I think fintech is quite well positioned, but I also think we have incredible legacy institutions with decades, centuries of data, of compliance frameworks, of really powerful, deep customer relationships. So I'm incredibly bullish on UK fintech and just financial services overall.
And Rob, you have overseen so many transformations. What are the kind of key learnings that you would want to impart from how you manage workforce through the scale of transformation that we're seeing? And Claire, we were speaking before, and I think we were saying that the first few months of 2026 have felt even more frantic and than the entire 2024-25 put together from a sort of tech and actually seeing that return on AI investment kind of pulling through.
Yeah, well, I think it's all about inclusivity across the board. It's looking across verticals rather than the silos. A bit like having a diverse team of people. A diverse team of people is always outperforming a non-diverse team. And it's the same with data, AI, and all of the new technology. If you can harness that and include people at the outset, rather than just some top-down, we want you to do this, and this, actually include people and then educate them. Because I think people are, humans are very adaptive. And if you include them and they feel part of the solution, you always get a better result.
I mean, clear, from an FS perspective, obviously, productivity doesn't just mean speed. It means compliance. It means accuracy, lots of regulations. It's very complex. What are the kind of specific guardrails that you think for financial services as a sector need to take into account that are maybe not in other sectors?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think, FS is a heavily regulated sector, and what we've actually found through the research we're doing is that it's not actually seen as a barrier to skills development. It's an opportunity, but we do need to be careful that we are understanding what the AI and the different systems are generating, and that requires deep financial services knowledge to really call out when there's mistakes, and so there's a premium on that. But the challenge is is we can't take our eye off the ball. So the what comes out of the different AI systems and agents and whatever you use will get better, but there still needs to be that eye on that human in the loop. And one of the fundamental challenges I think we've got as a sector is if we are automating a lot of the sort of more junior type tasks in the industry, how do you then learn what's built? So we might have the experts in the workforce right now, but in 5-10 years, people are going to retire. How do we maintain that deep knowledge? And I think that is a challenge, and we haven't, as a sector, we need to think that through and actually make sure we are not going to cut ourselves off at the feet and have a real problem in 5 or 10 years' time. So it's not necessarily a guardrail. I think it's just a warning that we need to have an eye on that pipeline of talent for the long term.
And just on that last point, Jonas, I'm just going to come to you on the power of AI as a leveler of knowledge and the democratization of knowledge. How do you see that kind of paying some kind of dividends when we look at some of these workforce issues?
I think there's immense dividends, and I love Jeremy's kind of optimistic view. I think it's incredibly aspirational. I think there's always going to be a cultural component. Work isn't just what people do while they're in the office, right? People have a sense of what they're there for, right? I'm here as a coder, I'm here as a customer insight person, I'm here as a strategy person. So if we, although it'll be great to democratize and level, which like Robert was alluding to, I think there'll always be a sense of how we manage that transition as well, because work is people's identity, you know, and I think we're going to go into a future where we need to acknowledge that all bets are off and these things are going to shift, and it's going to be incredibly empowering and optimistic, but that there will be a dislocation, and I think we need to bring all of our humanity to that process about how we manage that through.
That's brilliant. Thank you. Jeremy, Claire, Jonas, Rob, thank you so much for this morning. I think the key message that I'm taking away is humans at the centre of all of this transformation, and so much opportunity for the sector to really drive that competitive advantage.
My report.
And
And
Claire's
don't forget
report.
the chief exec's name.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you.
Thanks.